my name is Kristen Ninneman, and I'm going to give some information on what I learned this week in my reading of the New Testament in antiquity. First, I'm going to touch on the teaching style of Jesus. Now, when Jesus taught, he taught with parables. What parables are they are representations of a teaching, but using a story to bring out that representation. So with like the story of the prodigal son, he taught about a son who asked for his father's inheritance. All of it went, he blew it on, just bad things in his life, became poor, working with pigs as a slave, and then realized that he would get treated much better if he just went back home to his father. Now thinking that his father would, hate him or maybe not want him as his son again, he was ashamed. But as he went home, his father saw him coming and greeted him through a party, a feast, because he was so glad that his son came home. Now that then turned into Jesus explaining how when we leave Christ or when we fall away, that he is there waiting for us with open arms, and that he still loves us, that even though we strayed, that we are still his children. So that's just a little insight on what a parable is and how it is interpreted into a teaching. Next is just, was Jesus' style common? Not really. When he began his teaching, even his followers didn't really understand his parables. They would often ask, what does this mean? His prophets would often pull Jesus aside and ask him, what did you mean by this? And Jesus would have to say, and give an explanation of, his parable and such. So I would say that, no, his teaching style was not very common. And the primary theme throughout his parables were definitely just to prioritize the figure of God and the authority that God and Jesus had, and how that represents, him in our lives, and just lays out a great foundation for who we are in God's eyes and how we should be living. That's really what I found is like the primary theme of the parables in the New Testament. And nowadays, I would say that, the teaching of parables like that Jesus used has possibly become more common. Maybe not with the word parable, but say, in a modern teaching course like math, how they use, explanations. Say we went to the store for 11 watermelon. How does that translate into a math problem? So we can see that there is similarities in that, where we use different explanations to reach our audience and to break things apart in order to come across in a way that other people will understand. Because when you're teaching something that can be foreign, we have to make it understandable for somebody new. So when we're going to teach somebody new about Christ who may not have ever heard about him, we have to get on their level and find a way to get to them in the correct way. So that's kind of the basis of what we learned this week about Jesus and just how he's taught with his parables. You can find a lot of this information in Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. They have a great just foundation of the parables, and each one kind of depicts different sides of Jesus. Even if they repeat the parable, say from one book to another, they lay out great different perspectives, and it's a great place to start when you're wanting to learn more about Christ and just his teaching style. So thank you for watching.